How much China is going to buy of US soybeans yet in the next couple of months? Jerry Gidel is ready to analyze this and the late planting in Argentina right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. Jerry, we have another week with the report breaking, and we have also had some news about planting in South America and some political news with Secretary Bessent saying that China will have an extended deadline to buy those 12 million metric tons that were initially alleged agreed on. Um, so how do you think that is playing out in the markets?
Well, I think it's always good that uh, when you set a deadline and you talk about a certain amount of production out there being purchased, particularly the Chinese, and that the Chinese don't always go ahead and plan exactly on the same schedule that the USDA and the U.S. government thinks it will. But in general, at least we did end up having some finalized numbers come in this last week or so. Actually, Friday, we had like 482,000 tons come through, and that kind of matches up with the totals we've heard and is in that 3 million metric ton overall level. But the prospects of actually seeing 12 million metric tons overall from China. We'd have to really pick up the pace here to get it done in the month of
But
December.
yeah, you have received some news from China that their crop might not be as excellent as previously thought.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's part of the factor in here. I think that's keeping everybody kind of bouncing along here. Uh, they haven't, in the same vein here, they haven't been buying a lot of corn from the U.S. since way back in the spring here, and that, along with the beans, they've really been stepping out of the U.S. market for an extended period of time. And there was reports out from a China watcher here this week that some of their corn in storage had gotten moldy. In essence, the weather conditions and that were uh, uh, prompting some of the storage corn, and that I've got to think that that's could even be ear corn. They made a photo of that in the article that was ear corn versus shell corn, and that. But in general, that's what happens. Unfortunately, sometimes even in the U.S. here, where you store corn, and that it's not a commodity that is eventually it's going to have issues. You need to rotate it, and that's what they're actually doing with some of the soybean purchases. That they're taking the stuff they've had in storage and replacing it with some of the stuff that they're now buying. And I think that's really going to end up potentially being a factor here. They could also, you say, well, they can buy it from South America. Unfortunately, the South American operations don't have the well. Storage ability, I have to call it, as they do in the U.S. We definitely make sure that our corn and soybeans are below the standard levels so they can be stored. Sometimes the supplies coming out of both Argentina and Brazil are right on the edge there of 15.5 on corn and say 13 to 14% on beans. And that does lead to issues. They don't have the drying systems that the U.S. have. And so once things get a little bit shaky on the edge, it can be a problem. And I think that is a factor that could come about on the corn here later. This wasn't the big report coming out from this China watcher was really centered on corn. And so, but in general here, the markets this time of year are somewhat lackluster in that there isn't the participation. So, to some extent, I think these kind of news is kind of helping kind of put corn, both prices in kind of sideways patterns right now until we get more data and information. Uh, Even about the U.S. crop, we're going to get an update here on the USDA expectations on Tuesday. They just don't have a production number, and that's what everybody wants to know.
Yes, when it comes to the Brazilian exports, so right now the forecast was adjusted to 41 million metric tons in 2025. It's still way higher than the 37 million metric tons that were exported last year, but is below market expectation.
Yeah, well, the interesting relationships, we always get the difference between crop years and calendar years and type situations, and particularly since uh, the Brazilians have been pretty heavy shippers here of beans this year. Everybody's looking for maybe a bigger adjustment out there than that. I don't know that in general here, though, that it's a really big deal there that they miss maybe the top side of it. But at the overall point of view here is that China's going to continue to favor South America whenever they can, unless the U.S. administration yells at them about commitments to us. So at this point, I think we're right now, at least, I think that the big factor on adjusting our South American exports is going to be how this crop season develops. There has been some pockets of dryness, some delays, some other areas maybe not getting the kind of moisture they hope for, that kind of stuff. So I kind of feel like last year there was a pretty good crop clear across both areas, both Argentina and Brazil, and the prospects of that having the same situation in 2026 here in the as we go into this year is probably not as strong a prospects because of the widespread area that South America raises corn and soybeans.
Yeah, so yeah, in Argentina there is a significant delay when it comes to planting soybeans. The market is talking about 1 million hectares that still needs to be planted by the next month. So this might have a real toll if Argentina does not get to it.
Oh, definitely. And then the interesting thing is that Argentina had already committed to planting more corn in their general talk out here, and that uh, from the standpoint that uh, because of the Chinese and purchasing, they came in and swooped in and bought a lot of corn. The price of corn had been more competitive than beans, and so that attracted the general thought down there was that they were going to have a 53 million metric ton corn crop up from 50, and the bean crop that was 50 was going to be 48 and a half million metric tons. And that's going to be a factor out there for us here if we do have some issues about getting crops seeded. And that the interesting thing, particularly in Brazil, is if you don't get things timely planted and either on the second crop, beans and that, and it pushes it into the hot periods there late in winter our time, late spring situations out there, or in summer, I should say, you have problems in production. So right now, the output projections are out there for both Brazil and Argentina. Could have some big significant changes if this weather, there's still supposedly a La Nina going on. It's erratic. At some places it's good, some places it's not so good on what's happening to the crops down there. And so La Ninas, though, are an issue in South America. They can create production problems.
Yeah, so what do you think will be the market reaction next week with all this new coming up?
Well, South America is going to still, and the weather issues down there are going to still be important. I don't sense that the coming Tuesday, uh, USDA numbers aren't going to have a lot of effect here, primarily because there isn't any U.S. production report. I initially thought with this delayed issues from October not having a report that maybe they might go ahead and do a December thing before January, but overall they just with their staffing issues in Washington and things like that, they did not volunteer doing another production estimate until the final in January, which is very disappointing because I think there's a lot of issues like last year that didn't surface until potentially the January report. Since right now uh, the production estimates here from from the Reuters here at this point. Uh, Really just had minor adjustments here. Uh, there it is. I wondered where it went. From that standpoint, the wheat number on carryover stocks for the coming 25-26 year is expected to be maybe down 10 million. Exports have been pretty solid in that. No production exports, as we said, are going to be happening for wheat, corn, and soybeans. So that's kind of there, but still 900 is significantly higher than last year's 700 million. On corn, there seems to be expectations here of maybe 30 million bushels higher in exports. Definitely, we've had a very strong export pattern of buying because as much as it has to do with it is the fact that we've got no the soybeans were being shut down because of disagreements with China, and so we were moving corn because the capacity was there to do it. I kind of lean a little that way, but not all that much. Beans, um, trade's looking for 302, 302 million from 290 last month, and it's still a lot to cautious about this whole thing with will China go ahead and get this 12 million metric tons moved here or not. In general, though, all those numbers are very modest changes in that. So I think South American weather, South American issues are going to be the features going forward here in the month of December. From there, the, Australia, though, did increase its wheat crop by 2 million metric tons. We had a lot of changes in the world uh, expectations, USDA's expectations of the world wheat output last month. This is a minor adjustment here at this point, so I don't think that's going to have a big impact. Corn and soybeans this time of year don't see a lot of changes in the USDA's numbers here until we get further into the South American growing season. So, in general, here, as I said, the USDA numbers on Tuesday will be uh, have limited impact anticipated, I think, from many people like myself in the trade. So, uh, at this point, I kind of feel like we're South American weather watchers going forward here. But in general, I kind of feel that there's still a lot of uncertainty within the trade as to what size crops we're going to have from both Argentina and Brazil because of the weather not keeping their seedings on a very strong and seasonal pattern here. We're sliding behind, and that always can impact things because the weather situations in their summers can be quite extreme, and that, and with this La Nina out there, in general, that's likely to have happened, and so there's definitely uncertainty about South America's output. So, but we'll keep struggling along trying to figure out what kind of crops they're going to have. Interesting one last twist note. There's a expectation even within South American producers, not producers, uh, analyticals people from 171 to 179 on Brazil's crop here because of the weather and the delayed seedings and that. Some are just kind of passing it off and not seeing much impact yet, and their numbers are not willing to change. Well, Others are jumping in and trying to be uh, rejecting the current problems to reduce output. So 171 to 179 is quite a range for expectations for the Brazilian crop. We'll just have to see how it really turns out because even the USDA's numbers are probably not going to tell us that on Tuesday.
All right, thank you very much.
Have a good day. Bye.